Giddy up and welcome into this drawing stream video where I am just drawing this horse skeleton. So, I'm going over this horse skeleton, breaking it down into its different bones. I have a good reference with me that is vitally important to really, understand a little bit more about what goes on in a horse. Um, here is just a starting point. It's just a place where you would start off to get, kind of get good. You would start off with drawing this a few times before going in and drawing horses a little bit better than this. It does take a little bit of time. For now, I just gestualize the whole, where everything fits. And, slowly just edit the little bits here and there. And then I decide, oh, I need a grid here, because, things aren't feeling right. The size and proportions aren't working, so I decided just grid it. And that's what I did. I did a grid here, and grids are really useful for copying things and understanding where things lay, the proportions of things. You can do this with human anatomy, animal anatomy, anything really you want to duplicate, draw, and understand. It's there, it's a tool, and yeah, it's there. It really helps you, really guides you where things fit in because it's easier to kind of use the grid to be like, oh yeah, this actually fits in there. This is what this looks like within the grid. Even looking at it now, I'm like, oh yeah, there's some bits and pieces there. I'm like, okay, compared to what the grid looks like, it looks a little bit off, you know. So I can really understand, where things are going wrong, the proportions, where legs are too small or too big, where rib cages are too small or too big, too long. It really does show all your proportions and make things click a little bit better than just trying to draw it free-handly without any grids or any kind of measurement system. It does help tenfold, especially when you're kind of starting out at kind of learning something new. It doesn't have to be, you could be really good at drawing, but this could be a new subject, so it can really help out no matter what level. I think using grids and things like that, it does help tenfold. No matter what level you are, it's still a tool that you can use, regardless if you're really good at drawing new subject matter. It just can, and it can make things quicker as well. You're really good at art, but using the grid can make things really quick as well. And that's another thing. This drawing overall only took me 30, nearly 40 minutes to do the whole thing. That's just one drawing. I've drawn it a few times trying to get the proportions and everything right. But yeah, it didn't take me a lot of time, and I think the grid did help with that a lot. If I didn't use a grid, I think I would have got a little bit more frustrated with some of the proportions and trying to work it out on my own without those grids. You can still do it without the grid, and you can get it done. It's just, yeah, it's more challenging. Um, I mean, do the grid and then take off the grid, and then do the grid, then take off the grid. That's a good way to kind of get things going and understand. I really try to understand this. I didn't just draw it. I also named the bones and try to understand what each bone was. I was looking at different photos, not just these two. You see, the two on the side was the really strong reference. That's what I was copying from. But also having a front view or a three-quarter view or just something else to look at so you can really understand what each piece is that you're drawing. Like at first, I didn't really understand what this bone is that I'm drawing right here next to the other bone that I'm just about to draw. Um, I thought it was, another bone attached to the leg. I was like, that's a bit odd. But it actually is kind of its um horse pelvis. But yeah, um, Elysium's, but yeah, it's kind of pelvis where the legs are attached to. So it's not actually, it doesn't actually, like on its side, it looks like another bone, you would notice, but front view, you can really tell, it's pelvis kind of an area. And understand it a little bit better so that you know what you're drawing. So seeing it three-quarter view, from here, I only did a side view today. I just really just quick, easy, understand it. I think some of the proportions are off as well, a little bit, um, but still trying to fix it. Still trying to understand it. I mean, the proportions are kind of important when you're trying to capture it right. Um, but in the end, understanding all the parts, first and where everything goes, um, where everything kind of lies is first most important. That's the way I see it anyway. Where everything goes is a rib cage. This is um, the neck. This is the tail. This is where the legs go. This is how long the legs are. Kind of that is more important first to understand, and then from there you can really get tight and nitty and gritty about all the little proportions from there. And that's what you want. You want the general shape done first. So, this has been great drawing this horse. Um, we're going in on the last couple of minutes here, so I try and let you guys know as much details as possible. I go in and name all the bones at the end. So that's a good way to understand it, is not just draw it, but then from there actually name the bones in the system, name them yourself, like write down the different bones and what they are, because that reinforces what the different bones are. Feel free to print it out and put it on your wall or stick it somewhere where you can see it. I did that with human anatomy. I was trying to get better at drawing humans a lot. So I drew the human body and I kind of pinned it to my wall and looked at it every now and again when I always had trouble struggling with it. So if you're going to draw a lot of horses, do some of these side views, front views, all these ones, and then feel free to use them as a reference to help you, because that really kind of reinforces it, and that's what you want to do. You want to reinforce this information, because you could draw it once and it will go nowhere, but you draw it twice, reinforce it, understand it a little bit better, and one day you'll draw a horse and you'll be like, okay, yeah, I know roughly the shape of a horse now. And delving into this level is where you want to begin. So yeah, I've done my drawing here. Now I'm just going around and labeling all the little bones. Now it's not important to remember the names per se, just that what the kind of bones look like, the scapula, I understand the scapula because humans have them. It's a kind of backbone there. It's on our backbone. It's on our our backs anyway, attached to our arms or whatever. But you know, I don't understand all the names of them, but you understand the look and the feel of, you know, each bone. You know what the kind of rib cage look is, but you don't necessarily know its name or something. You don't need to know all the names of the bones, just understand what they kind of all look like and where they are placed. Um, you know, understanding all the names can be really helpful, um, but it's not always necessary, unless in my mind I don't think it's always necessary. But just understanding, you know, what kind of bones they have, what their system is like, um, is really helpful. So hopefully you've learned something new, you've drawn along with me, or you're going to draw lots of horses. Keep drawing, keep creating, and see you in the next video.